DreAllDay.com.
What's up, everybody? Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. Welcome. You're here at Q&A. This is Q&A number, I believe this is number 67. Q&A number 67. We do this every week here on this YouTube channel. And before I get into the questions and the structure of how this goes, for those who don't know and refresher for those who do, a couple announcements I want to make. First, we know the NBA playoffs are starting today. Y'all watching this on Saturday, April 18th. I actually recorded this on Friday afternoon, so it's about 12 p.m. Friday, April 17th as I'm recording this. The playoff preview video, I posted that Friday morning, so if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out and let me know your predictions if you agree or disagree with what I said, because you better not come in after the game start and try to tell me you had a different prediction after the game start. That don't count. You gotta say it before the games begin, like I did. That's why it's a prediction, which means before the games. The other thing, $1 million 5-on-5 basketball tournament. DreAllDay.com/TBT. That stands for The Basketball Tournament. That website is where you can go, become a fan, and support our team. The reason we want supporters is because the only way you get into the tournament, don't matter who you got on your team, the only way your team gets in is if people come, that means you all, come in and support that team, be a fan of the team. And when we win this $1 million, you know what happens? 950,000 of it gets split amongst the players. 50,000 goes to the fans, to the supporters. And the way they divide up the money is the people who recruit the most other people to become fans, they get the most money. For example, our #1 fan is going to get $5,000 in cash. The next 20 people, each going to get $1,000 in cash. Then it's 500, then it's 250. They're giving out t-shirts and a bunch of other stuff. So you go and become a fan, recruit your friends with the link that they give you to become other fans, and you get money. You don't even have to play. You ain't even got to play in none of the games. We got to do all the work. You get the money just for being a fan and recruiting people. So go to that link. It's the top link in the description below, and you can become a fan and support our team. Is going to be on ESPN, so you can watch it. So don't just watch it. Be a fan and watch it. So you can watch us go for this $1 million this summer. First round is going to be in Philadelphia in mid-July, and I'll be putting out videos about that. If you follow my channel, you've probably seen the videos. I've been putting out the updates and all that. So without further ado, let's get right into the Q&A. The way this works is I read the comments from all the questions from the week before, and then I respond to the questions right here on the spot. Usually I limit it to one question per person. If you ask me more than one question within the same comment, I might answer them both depending on if they're related to each other. So let's get straight into it. It's on a case-by-case basis. I have full discretion. So let's go right into it. First question is by Farkin Robbie. He says, Dre, can you talk about the jobs you had after college, like working at gyms and retail stores? Yeah, I have talked about it several times. If you want to hear me talk about that stuff, you should probably go to my other channel, youtube.com/DreAllDay, where I talk about the off-court stuff. And also in my book, when I put out my next book, it might not even be my next book, but one of the books that I'm working on right now is going to be where I talk about my full basketball experience. That means pros, the outside of the jobs, inside the jobs, contracts, dealing with the several different people on the court, off the court. When I put that book out, I'll talk about those things. So in writing form, I haven't done that yet. As far as speaking form, that will be on my other channel, wouldn't be on this channel. Next question. Roman says, Dre, I'm 16. I live in Israel. One day I want to play in the NBA. I train 5 hours a day. I'm good at school. Do I have any tips for him to help the process of getting drafted in the future, or for any tips in general? Yeah, Roman, work on your fucking game. I mean, people ask me, do I have any tips for them to get better? If you want me to give you a tip, then you got to ask me a very specific question. If you just say, what can I do to get better, then I'm going to tell everybody the exact same thing, which is work on your game. And you're 16, so you don't really need to focus on getting drafted yet, Roman. I think you should focus on performing at wherever you are right now. Focus on performing at your best where you are. And if you keep doing your best wherever you're at, then eventually you'll get to where you want to go. So focus on that and not looking so far ahead that you forget to focus on where you are. Next question. Alan Johnson says, I'm 5'9", I weigh 164 pounds. I'm about to enter high school, but I can't dunk yet. What workouts can he do to jump higher, get more vertical, and dunk? You go to DreAllDay.com/jump. DreAllDay.com/jump. And that program there, it's called the Jump Manual, will give you everything you need so you can get up there and throw it down the way that you want to. Raymar says he's impressed with my answers. Keep it up. Well, thank you, Raymar. Wade Harris says, Dre, now that you're older and more knowledgeable about the game, if I could go back to high school, what would I do different to be more successful since I called myself a bum in high school? I wouldn't do anything different. I don't think I was doing anything wrong. I think I started the game a little bit later than usual. I didn't have the experience, and eventually I gained the experience, and then I got to everything else that happened after that. I wouldn't go back and change anything. So when people ask me those hypotheticals, would I go change anything? No. Because if I changed anything in the past, then I wouldn't be here right now probably doing this. It's kind of like, if any of you ever heard of the butterfly effect or saw the movie of the same name, the butterfly flaps its wings a different way, then everything afterwards changes. So I wouldn't change anything. Next question. Just Craig says, I'm 14 and I'm 5'6". And he asked, do I think that his weight of 154 pounds is good for a point guard? It's not good or bad. Your weight doesn't determine whether or not you can actually play basketball. Your skills determine whether or not you can play. So it's not about it being good or bad. It's about whether you can play or you can't. That's the question that you should be asking. Next question. DeMarcus says, what exactly is a reach-in foul? DeMarcus, I'm not a referee. Next time you play in a game and a referee calls a reach-in foul on you, you go over there and you ask him what exactly that was. But I'm not the person to answer that question. Johnny Chen says, I'm a huge fan and Buy a Game, my first book that y'all can read for free on my website, dreallday.com/buy-a-game. He said it's currently his favorite book. Well, thank you, Johnny. He says he's wondering if I have or am I planning to write a book about my pro career and how I started on YouTube. And he said he's not sure if I realize, but I'm inspiring a younger generation of basketball players. Well, I definitely realize that, but I appreciate you saying that, Johnny. And the question that you asked, I just mentioned that a couple minutes ago. So yes, I am working on that book. It's going to be a long-ass book because it's going to take a lot of writing. And it's about 15 years worth of recollections that I have to go through to actually write it, then edit it down. I'm not going to edit it, but somebody's going to edit it down. So it's going to take a while for me to finish writing it. But yes, I am working on that. So thank you. Marquise says, Dre, do you think it's better to spend time training or playing games and getting experience, or should there be a balance? Well, of course, there should be a balance, Marquise. You probably already know that since you said it in your question. Of course, you need a balance. You want to play in games so you get the experience so that you know how to use the skills, and you only get the skills from practicing. So you need to do both. The One Baller 55 says, what do coaches look for most in a player? Coaches look for players who can, here's some things I would say in general that every coach would want. A player who listens to what the coach says, a player who works hard, a player who will play defense, because every coach wants a player who will play defense. No coach has to tell a player to play offense. All right, we all play offense. So listen, work hard, play defense, and a player who has some skills. Coaches want talent. Talent, skills, whatever words you want to use, we'll just in general say is the same thing. A player who has some abilities. Can you dribble, shoot, pass, rebound, whatever. So skills, work hard, play defense, and listen. Those are 4 things that no coach will turn down. Next question. Now, you should have a combination of all those, though. So if you got skills and you don't listen or play defense, then you might still not make the team. So those are not exclusive. Mateo says, Dre, what do you think a power forward should work on the most? He said he knows there's a lot, but what are the main things to focus on? There's no main thing to focus on based on a position. Just because you said you're a power forward, or if you're thinking about someone who is a power forward, that doesn't mean, all right, if I call myself a power forward, that means I need to do this, this, and this. Or if I'm a shooting guard, then I got to do this, this, and this. And if I'm a point guard, then I got to do this. That's not how it works. This is how it works for every player who asks these position questions. And I've said this many times before. I'm sure I'm going to have to say it many times again. So I'll say it here today. The position does not determine how your game is supposed to be played. You determine how your game is played. Let's look at the power forward position. Just for example, let's look at Dirk Nowitzki. Dirk Nowitzki is about 7 feet tall. He's pretty much a power forward if we want to talk about positions. How does Dirk play? He doesn't do too much back to the basket. When he does, what does he usually end it with? A shot that's kind of fading away from the basket. Nothing wrong with a fadeaway because he makes them, right? He shoots 3-pointers. He's a shooter, and he's tall. And he usually uses his size to shoot over opponents while using that fadeaway shot. Usually you put a smaller guy on him to try to take away his driving ability and try to keep him from getting the shots that he wants in his comfort zones. Now let's look at somebody else who plays power forward. Let's look at Amari Stoudemire. Amari's been hurt recently. We'll say Amari Stoudemire in his prime was right up there with Dirk, all-star, starter, and all that stuff. Amari Stoudemire is what? He didn't even do back to the basket that often. He usually would set picks, roll hard to the rim, get a pass from his point guard, and try to dunk on people, stuff the ball just into the rim as hard as he could every time, over and over and over again. Look at somebody like Chris Bosh. Chris Bosh, he does back to the basket a little bit, but when he does catch the ball in the post, a lot of times he'll face up on a guy, use his quickness and his shooting ability out of the triple threat position, or maybe a one dribble pull up. You're not as much fading away like somebody like Dirk, but just using his quickness and his length to shoot around defenders and over defenders when he gets them off balance using his footwork. So which one of those is the best way to play power forward? We look at somebody else like a Blake Griffin. Blake might put the ball on the floor and do some crossovers and stuff like that, and then he might try to dunk or shoot a little hook shot or up and under layup or things like that. So there is no one right way to play any position. All those guys are all-stars. All those guys have been the centerpieces of teams. And all those guys are pretty damn good, and they all play the same position. So there's no one thing that you need to focus on to play any position. You got to figure out what your game is going to be. That's the first question you all have to answer for yourself. What is my game? What skills do I want to have in my game? What do I want my game to be about? What do I want? What are my strengths going to be? You got to figure out what that is. Nobody told Chris Bosh, all right, well, Chris, look at Charles Barkley. You got to play like him because he was a power forward. Nobody said to Dirk, look at Karl Malone. You got to play like that. You had to figure out how you're going to play. Once you figure that out, then you work on those skills. The position, whatever title you want to give yourself as far as positions go, doesn't matter. Just because you call yourself a power forward doesn't mean you're going to get in the game. Doesn't mean you're going to make the team. Doesn't mean you're going to get the ball. Doesn't mean you're going to get any certain stats. If you have game, then all those things can happen. So focus on the skills and not on the position. Next question. Mr. Mention 1084 says his team recently went to a basketball tournament overseas to Greece. I don't know if he means from America to Greece or from a different country, but he went to Greece for a tournament. They had to deal with the trials of traveling, waking up very early every day to travel to places that he'd never seen before. They played 6 games in 3 days. Everybody was very physically and mentally tired. So he played well in the beginning, but his coach started to not give him playing time, and he left everything all out on the court. He said, what would be the reason for his coach leaving him on the bench? Mr. Mention, how the hell would I know? Why don't you ask the coach? I have no idea why your coach will leave you on the bench. I'm not your coach. I have no idea who your team is. I've never seen you play before. I don't know you. I wasn't at the games. I have no idea why your coach did what he did. If you really, really want to know why he did it, you had to ask the person who did it, which is your coach. He's the only one who could really answer that. Ali Foyer says, when he asked about pre-workout, he was referring to, because he asked a question about pre-workout, I'm supposing. He was asking about some drink that's sold in powdered form. You mix it in the water before you work out, like lifting weights, and it helps you get a quote-unquote pump for lifting weights. He said he wants to know, what are my thoughts on such a product, if I have any at all? No, I don't have any, Ali. I've never tried any of that pre-workout pump stuff. I'm not a bodybuilder, so I'm not concerned with having a pump. I play basketball. So if I lift weights, the goal is for me to get better at basketball. It's not about making my muscles look bigger so I can impress people on the beach. My purpose of lifting weights is to get stronger so that I can play basketball better, whatever way that's necessary. It's a functional thing. So it's not about size necessarily. It's about function of being able to play basketball better. Hayden Evans says, I'm a good shooter. I can shoot from anywhere all the way up to the NBA three-point line. What type of skills should he use? He doesn't want to be known as just a quote-unquote really good shooter. Well, Hayden, that's a question you had to answer for yourself. What else do you want to add to your game? Do you want to add driving skills? Do you want to add ball handling? Do you want to add passing? You want to add defense, rebounding? What is it that you want your game to be? This is something that I talked about in a weekly motivation video. Actually, I don't even know if this one came out yet, but it's called What Do Y'all Want to Do? What do you want? Who do you want to be? What do you want your game to be? So, Hayden, this is not a question for anyone else to answer. That's a question you need to answer for yourself. What skills do you want? The Trusted Theater says, Dre, do you prefer playing pickup or do you like doing drills or shooting like in-game shots? So basically asking me, do I prefer playing pickup or doing drills and working out? I like both. There's no one that I prefer over the other, because if you do drills, you can do a whole bunch of drills, but the purpose of doing drills is what? So that when you play in a game, you play better. So you would never know if the drills are helping you until you play in some games, whether that be pickup, a rec league, or some organized form of basketball. So I like both. Jake Gifford says, what are your thoughts on the pro shot shooting system? And he's letting me know that I really help. The pro shot shooting system, Coach Hoover, I actually did a 2-part Q&A with him. If y'all didn't see that, y'all can check it out on my channel in the collaborations playlist. I think they have dug deep into how shooting works. They got a 150-page ebook, which I give out for free on my website. Actually, you sign up for my mailing list, you get the ebook for free. I think they've done a great job digging deep into shooting. That ebook is 150 pages long. 150 pages long. They should be selling that ebook. They're giving it away for free. So y'all need to go sign up and get it while he's still giving it away for free before they come to their senses and start selling that to y'all, because y'all should be paying for that book. So that's what I think about the pro shot shooting system. Top Notch Sports says, you could throw a haymaker, I guess he means a punch, at any one NBA player, who would it be? Nobody. I don't think I have a goal of throwing a haymaker at anybody. Oscar Lopez says, who's the most underrated player in the NBA? It could be from any time period. I don't consider, there's no player I'm thinking of that would be underrated off the top of my head, so I can't answer that. Nobody in particular. Tate says, this is a silly question, but basketball is my passion, and he says it would be great to go professional, but he thinks there's a slim chance for him. But how does he keep the drive to get out and practice? He says, if he loves it, shouldn't he be playing almost every day? He says, how does he develop the continuous drive to play basketball? Well, Tate, if you don't have it, then maybe basketball might not be your thing. I think you can develop it if you keep playing and you start to see progress. I think one thing that keeps anyone going in any pursuit is when they start to see progress, if they're seeing that they're having some success in it. Even if it's a very small step, but if you see yourself getting better, then you'll probably want to keep doing something. So if you're doing something and you see that you're not getting anywhere, you're not getting any better, there's no improvements, that's usually when people quit. Most of the time people don't quit if they're having success after success after success. So I think finding a way that you'll start to see some progress will help you. I would recommend, based on your question, I don't know what it is you've been doing so far that has you questioning whether or not you should be playing. Since you say you want to be in the pros, those two thoughts are diametrically opposed. I would suggest you go to hoophandbook.com and check out one of the signature workout programs or the skill programs so that you'll have some success. You'll be training and you'll be seeing yourself getting better. And at that point, you'll say, all right, I'm getting better at the game so I can keep going at this. But if you are practicing every day and you don't see yourself getting better, then that might be a reason for you to not want to keep training. All right. Sadiq says, Dre, I'm 15, 6'4", I'm from Germany. I'm good at driving to the basket. His mid-range is okay. On his team, he plays center because he's one of the taller guys. He says, should he work on his finishing abilities or start working on his three-pointer or his mid-range? Why not do all of those, Sadiq? Why would you only work on one thing? In the game, you're not going to be able to do one thing over and over and over and over again. Eventually, teams will adjust, especially if you're having success at doing that one thing. So I think you should work on all of those. Maz Fam says, you guys better win. Let's go team WOYG. Oh yeah, and that 5-on-5 tournament team's called WOYG, stands for work on your game. So Maz, I'm assuming that you voted for our team. So get us some more fans, Maz. That's what I hope. That's what I want you to do. We can't do anything about winning until the games begin. So July, like I told you, we playing to win. So bring in some more fans. I appreciate your support. Kuba says, Dre, how do you get a girl's number on the streets of a city? He said he calls it WOYCG, work on your chick game. He says, give him a good pickup line. Well, Kuba, here's the best advice I can give you as far as that question goes. Don't use pickup lines. Pickup lines don't work. People work. So if you want to get any type of girl, it's not about getting a girl's number on the streets of a city. I mean, that's a very specific situation, but you had to be yourself. So a pickup line is not being yourself. A pickup line is like something that you memorized. You don't want to have to memorize a line, because if that line or whatever doesn't get the response that you want, then what are you going to say next? You just shot your one bullet and it didn't work. So now you just blew the whole situation. So you don't want a pickup line. You don't want to have a set of pickup lines. You want to be yourself. And if you want to learn more about meeting females or getting the females that you want. I made a video about that, but it's not on this channel, it's on my other channel, youtube.com/DreAllDay. I actually made part 1 and part 2 just came out this week, so go over there and check that out. Francisco says, what signature program do you recommend for someone who's 6'1", they play guard, they want to get better at reading the pick and roll, finishing over taller defenders, and quick mid-range pull-ups? That description I would go with Damian Lillard or Tony Parker. Tahir says, Dre, I play basketball school every weekend. Kids call him Steph Curry because he makes a lot of threes. All right, you're giving yourself a very high ideal to reach right there, calling yourself Steph Curry. He said he wants to work on that aspect of his game, like getting space, deceiving defenders. And he says that I said hoop handbooks. I said that people can get the hoop handbooks. I recommend them. Of course, I recommend them because I made them. He says they cost money. The thing is, he doesn't have any money because he's in the 7th grade. So he wanted to know if I offer things like that on my website. And he wished I lived in Jacksonville so I could help. Thanks for answering his question. Well, here's the thing, Tahir. If I lived in Jacksonville to help you, you would still have to pay me. My time is not free. It's just like the programs ain't free. I'm going to keep it real. But as far as your situation, if you want to make some money, because really we don't want to go backwards. So like you're in this situation right here, right, where you want to get better. So you said you think the hoop handbook might help you, but you don't have any money. So you're asking, do I have anything that wouldn't cost you money? And that's the wrong question to ask, Tahir, in my opinion. Instead of saying I don't have any money, so let me find something that costs no money, why don't you say I don't have any money, so let me find a way to make some money? Because in the future, as you get older, Tahir, things are going to cost money. Things are not going to cost less. Things are going to cost more. The price of things are not going down. They're going up. So you're better off, instead of trying to find things for free, is find ways to make money so that you can afford them instead of having to find workarounds. So what I would say you do is go to my other channel, youtube.com/DreAllDay, where I talk about this. I have a specific video about this. If you don't have money, if you're underage, because you're not of legal age to get a job, like a straight over-the-counter job where you got a W-2 form and taxes and all that, you're too young. There are ways you can make money, and I have a video where I specifically detail how someone in your situation can do that with the current situation that you have. So go over there and watch that video. Elias says the system our coach running is terrible, for lack of a better phrase. He doesn't trust the bench. We get frustrated. We have a lot of talent. He says, how can I explain to the coach that his system doesn't work so well? It's not an AAU team, it's a school's team. Elias, you probably can't explain that to the coach. Why would he want to listen to you? He's the coach. He's in charge. So if you don't really like the way he's running his system, then you probably might just have to deal with it until or unless either he leaves or you leave. So I don't know what level of school you're at. If you're in college, if you're in high school, if you're in middle school, I have no idea. If you don't really like the coach's system, number one, you would have to have the ear of the coach, the trust of the coach for him to want to listen to what you have to say. So if you are in that position, then you just sit down and speak to him the same way that you're speaking to me. Tell him the same thing you're telling me. If you don't have the ear of the coach, maybe talk to one of the players who does and see what he thinks. If he agrees with you, then have him speak to the coach if he's a player who does have the ear of the coach. And if none of you had the ear of the coach, then that might say something about the players more than it does about the coach, Elias, honestly. Marcus Williams says, Dre, I'm 15, I'm 6'2", and his freshman year, he played freshman. He said, I played freshman year and freshman. All right. Now he's concerned that he might not be the desirable height to play center next year. Do I have any advice? Should he play another position or just work on his all-around game? Well, you could do both, Marcus. I mean, it's not really... You always want to work on your all-around game because if you want to have all-around skills, you got to work on your all-around game. So you don't need to concern yourself with a position. When you go to tryouts and try out for a basketball team, and I'm going to just speak for coaches in general, if you can play, the coach is going to find a way to use you. You don't need to worry about the name of your position. Who cares? When the game starts, there's 5 people on the court, right? So either you're going to be on the bench or you're going to be on the court. Now, I don't care if I say I'm a point guard, but the coach says, all right, well, I'm going to put you in the game as center, or you can sit on the bench as a point guard. Which one would you rather do? I'd rather be in the game as a center than be on the bench as the point guard. I don't care. So either you're on the court or you're not. So Marcus, I would suggest that you just work on your skills, develop skills the way that you want to develop. And when you get to tryouts or practices or whatever your situation may be, if you can play, the coach is going to recognize that and he'll find a way to get you on the court. Whatever way he got to do it, he'll figure it out. That's why he's the coach. Ninja videos. Say, Dre, why is your video so long? Why not make a highlight reel of the best questions like other YouTubers? He says, I know why, because you will have to edit the video. Instead, you could just pick the questions that are worthy of an answer, just make it shorter. Well, Ninja, if I did that, then most of the questions that may not be that good, like the question that you just asked me, they probably would get dropped off and you wouldn't hear me say your name in the video. So if I did that, you'd be shooting yourself in the foot because then your question wouldn't get answered. I do the Q&A this way because there are enough questions and enough time that it works that I can respond to everybody. I'm not, and another thing that you said, why not make a 6-minute highlight reel of the best questions like other YouTubers? Or that phrase there, like other YouTubers, that's be the exact reason why I wouldn't do it. I don't do things that other people do. I do things that I do, and then other people follow me. See, most of them started Q&As after I started it. I was doing Q&As back in 2009. Then I stopped, then I brought it back last year. So telling me that I should do something because a bunch of other people are doing it is probably the exact reason why I wouldn't do it. It's kind of reverse psychology. Dylan Moon says, I'm 14, 5'9", I can almost dunk on a 9.5-foot rim. Is that good, and do I think he needs the jump manual? Well, I don't know. It's not about good or bad, Dylan. Who determines whether something is good or bad? In the end, when you get on the basketball court, all that's going to matter is if you can play or if you can't. Now, if you can almost dunk on a 9.5-foot rim, then that means you wouldn't be close on a 10-foot rim, which is the size of a regulation basket. Do I think you need the jump manual? Well, if dunking is your aim, then yes, you need the jump manual. Now, besides, I don't know what the rest of your game looks like, so I don't even consider vertical jumps good or bad, because who cares? If somebody is whatever height and they can dunk or they can't dunk, I don't really care whether somebody can dunk. All I care about is if they can play, because if you can't play, I don't care if you can dunk. And if you can't dunk but you can play, then I want you on my team. Next. Kobe Tran says, how tall are you? I'm 6'4". D Jeff RX says, Dre, I love your stuff. I'm 15 years old. I play guard. I'm the best player on my team here in the UK. And he plays with older people. His coach gives him a lot of playing time. He says that I think more like a shooting guard because I'm the leading scorer. His question is, he says he's 182 centimeters. He'll most likely play point guard in the pros. How can he have the mentality of a point guard? Well, it's not about you having the mentality of a point guard, D Jeff, because who's the point guard whose mentality you want to copy? Because if we look at point guards, let's say we look at John Stockton, and then you look at Stephen Curry, and then you look at Kyrie Irving, and then we look at Derrick Rose, and you look at Chris Paul, and then Tony Parker, and then Damian Lillard. All of them have different mentalities. They don't all think the same way. None of them play the same way. None of them perform the exact same way. They all have different games, different skill sets, different things they do well, different things they have tendencies for. So there is no such thing as the mentality of a point guard. That doesn't exist. I know that people talk about that. They use that phrase a lot, but when you break it down and think about it the way that I just did, it makes no sense, right? Because all those guys are pretty damn good. They all play point guard, but they're all very different. So you had to figure out, first of all, what is your game? Not the mentality of a point guard, just some mentality that you pull out of the clouds. What is your mentality? What is your game? That's the thing you need to think about. Mr. Worldwide B-Ball says, I'm good at basketball, but I've experienced a lot of prejudice or racist behavior directed towards me, especially when I'm playing good. He says he never figured out how to deal with it. Sometimes it's frustrating. Do I have any advice? Well, you could give me something a little bit more specific. I could probably address it, and I actually have a series coming out called What Should I Do? And I'm going to need people to be very specific with their questions. This one is a little bit vague. So you experience prejudice and racist behavior, especially if you're having a good game. Well, what's the behavior? Is anybody doing anything physically to physically harm you or stop you from doing what you're doing? If the answer is no, then I tell you to refer to my trash talk video, where just because somebody says something doesn't mean you have to do anything. You don't have to respond. They're not physically doing anything to stop you, so you don't have to do anything. You can just keep playing your game the way that you are. You said it only happens when you're having a good game, so keep playing a good game. If they're not stopping you from playing, then keep playing. Boss Angel says he wants to ask, is excessive dribbling bad in one-on-one and in games? He says his friend complains that he takes too long when they play. He says you're only doing fancy moves and getting nowhere, but he feels like it's necessary. Is it bad to dance with the basketball? Well, one thing you could do, well, first of all, it's not a good or bad. When people ask me is something good or bad, most of the time it's neither. It's neutral. It just is what it is. Good or bad is all in the eyes of the beholder. So I could say it's terrible. You could say it's great. Neither one of us is right. Neither one of us is wrong. It's just a situation. If you and your friend want to make it different, you could just play 3 dribbles or 2 dribbles or 1 dribble one-on-one. Which means somebody gets the ball, they only can dribble 3 times, and they can't dribble again. You dribble again, it's a turnover. So y'all can do that and settle it that way. Jude Daniel says, I'm into your dribbling moves and playlists. He said he wants to ask, are you constantly updating the moves and the drills into the playlist? He wants to practice all of them. Yes. Whenever I upload a new video, I put it into a playlist. So, yes, they always are being updated. But if you were to take the first 100 ball handling drills I ever posted and mastered all of them, then you wouldn't even need to watch any more videos that I ever did. But I know most people don't do that, so I keep putting them out. I'm True Skills says, will you ever consider doing a weekly series where your subscribers send in video footage playing basketball and you critique their skills? Yes, I've considered that many times, but I would not do that. Honestly, I wouldn't do it for free because that would take a whole hell of a lot of time, and my time is not free. But I do make these videos for free, so this is the time that I'm giving y'all. So when people want me to give them specific one-on-one breakdowns of their videos specifically, I would get so many videos and that would take so much time. People will have to pay me for it. So if people are willing to pay for it, y'all can let me know, and we might be able to work that out. But otherwise, no. Abdul Ka says, have you ever had Osgood slatters, and when did you first notice the symptoms? How did you treat it, and how are you feeling as a result? Well, no, I've never had it, so the rest of the questions don't apply to me. Sorry. Postmove says, which team would benefit most from acquiring LaMarcus Aldridge in the offseason? Which team do you think he will go to, because he's a free agent at the end of the season? LaMarcus Aldridge ain't going nowhere at the end of the season, so nobody. Angel Despain says, I'm 14. I was wondering, what do you define as working on your mental game? How do you practice doing it? Well, Angel, is 2 things. Number 1, I have a couple videos in my mental game series, also my motivation series. When I make those weekly motivational videos, I also put the mental game videos that I record all into those playlists. I have 2 mental/motivational game series playlists. So if you watch all those videos, we talking over 300 videos. Or close to 300 videos, Angel. If you watch all those are ways to work on your mental game. You take the things that I'm talking about and you put them into actual practice. Not just watch the video and say, hey, that was a great video, but actually use them and apply them into your life. And the other thing is, also, I wrote a book called The Mental Handbook, which is all about the mental side of the game. I wrote another book called The Mirror of Motivation, which is about self-discipline and motivating yourself by looking in the mirror. And the third one is, in the Hoop Handbook Signature Workouts, we have mental game visions for every single section of each program. Next, Shabazz says, how can someone become less introverted? What's the best way to hold a conversation? Well, the best way to hold a conversation, Shabazz, is a cliche that people say: to be interesting, be interested. So if you listen to other people, ask open-ended questions to get them talking, people will be interested in you. So you don't even have to talk that much. You just got to get them talking, and they'll be like, damn, this guy, Shabazz, is a great person. He's such a great conversationalist. Even though you didn't say nothing, they was talking the whole time. Chris Thomas says, Dre, how did you acquire your knowledge? Well, that's a very broad question. One way is I went to school. Another way is I read books. Another way is I listen and learn to people who are smarter than me, who've had experiences that I haven't had, and I learn from them. Who's Truly says, Dre, have you ever been rejected by a girl? Can you give some advice to people who are afraid to approach females because they are afraid of being rejected? Well, the first question is yes, of course, I've been rejected by a girl. And the second question, I say you go to my other channel, youtube.com/DreAllDay, where I address the female dynamics thing. I won't address it here because this is more basketball-centric channel, but if you want me to talk about that, I have talked about it, and I will talk about it more in the future. Go to that channel. You can leave a comment on the video where I ask for suggestions, and I will get to it. Dixon says, if you could choose just one thing to change about the world, what would it be? I wouldn't change anything. I think the world is what the world is, and we got to work with it as it is. That's like a Miss America pageant question right there. Yoel Gide says, Dre, I'm a Hawks fan. I want your opinion on the Hawks this season. How well do you think they played this year? Do you believe they have a reasonable chance at the NBA Finals? And will I make highlights of playing in the tournament for those who might not be able to watch it on TV? I think the Hawks had a great season. Hopefully Millsap is 100%. It's messed up that they lost Cephalosha to the leg incident with the cops in New York. Who knows what the hell happened there. I think the Hawks will win at least their first round playoff series. See the playoff prediction video that I just put out yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. And then his question is, will I make highlights of the tournament? It depends on what the video recording situation is. Since I'm going to be playing, I'm not going to be controlling the video recording. And the people who put the tournament together, they're going to be doing all the filming. So whatever film I can get a hold of course, I'm going to share it. And they're going to be sharing film too. So we'll see what happens with that. I don't have much word on that just yet. We don't even know what the venues are, where the game's going to be at yet. We just know it's going to be in Philly, LA, Chicago, New York, and Atlanta. So far, we don't even know all the rest of the details yet. Only thing that matters right now is that we got to have enough fans that we are actually in the tournament. That's the only thing that matters. We're not talking about filming. We're not talking about the highlights. All we're talking about is making sure we got enough supporters at the link at the top of the video description that we actually get in the tournament. Because if we don't have enough supporters, we won't even be playing. So we got to get in the tournament first. And June 1st is the cutoff date. Once that happens, then we'll focus on everything else. KB Titan says, Dre, he says, the game looking more like Kobe's every day, so that's great. He says, question was, when you're in your teenage years dunking on people, how does it feel? Was it one of your main weapons? Did you get respected as a player? And then he get in the zone sometimes, but how do you get in it consistently? Well, the first one, how did it feel? Of course, dunking feels great to anyone. And athleticism was one of my main weapons. I'll talk about that in the video that I might not have put out yet, but you'll see it. And the second one is, how do you get into the zone consistently? If anyone could figure that out exactly and make a science of it, then that person would be a very rich individual because they would get paid a lot of money by every athlete alive. That's something that every athlete wants to unlock. So what you would need to do, KB Titan, is figure out when you do get into your right zone, or what Tony Robbins would call a peak mental state. You had to figure out what is it that got you into that state. One thing, because I was listening to this Tony Robbins tape over and over again, and he says, some people get into it from something external, whether that be something that they hear, something that they see, something that they maybe taste, something that they touch, something that they say, or it could be internal, something that you say to yourself, something that you might have ate that might make you feel a certain way, something that you might have thought to yourself. So you have to figure out what it is. Is it something external, like you say something out loud and all of a sudden you start to get going, or somebody says something, a certain thing, a certain phrase, certain word that gets you going, or something you say to yourself. Maybe it's a song you like to listen to, or some words in a song. Maybe it's a certain beat. Maybe it's a certain place you like to go to physically, that when you get into this certain location you feel it, or something that you think about, a place that you have been to get you into that zone. So it is something that triggers you, but you had to figure out what that trigger is. And once you get a lock on what that trigger is, then you can use it over and over and over again. It's like a recipe to make a cake. Once you know the recipe, you can make the same cake over and over and over again, but you had to figure out, you had to deconstruct your recipe. So basically, when you have a cake, next time you got that cake, you think, all right, what did I do to make this cake? How long was it in the oven for? What were the ingredients? How much chocolate? How much sugar? How much butter? How did I prepare it? And then you deconstruct it. Once you're able to figure that out, then you'll be able to trigger yourself over and over and over again. The next question, Andre, final question. Says, Dre, I love your vids. Keep it up. He says, been working on his biceps and triceps a lot, and the results are coming along nicely. However, his jump shot isn't going in anymore. He's a good shooter, but ever since he improved his arm strength, his shot isn't going in. Have I ever had this problem, and what do I suggest he does? No, I haven't really had that problem, Andre. What I say you need to do is make sure as you're developing your strength, if you're working on your body physically, make sure that you're still getting on the basketball court just as much. You don't want to start prioritizing strength training over basketball training if you're a basketball player. If you're a basketball player, your priority is basketball skills. Everything else comes after that. The reason you lift weights is to be better at basketball. You don't lift weights just to have nice muscles or so you can walk on the beach or have girls look at you. And all those are great benefits of lifting weights, but remember what your priority is, to be a good basketball player. So make sure that as much as you're lifting weights, you're on the court. And if you're doing that, if there's a balance there, it actually should be tilted a little bit more towards basketball than lifting weights. You shouldn't be lifting weights for an hour and playing basketball for 45 minutes. You should be, if you only have an hour, you should be spending more time in basketball than you do anything else that's part of your training. So what you need to do is make sure that you're working on your shot every time you get on the court, just as much, probably more, than you're lifting weights. That way your body and your mechanics of your shot, that movement, will develop just as much along with the strength as you're doing it. So that's all the questions this week. Everyone, thank you for coming through. Y'all coming through with good, thoughtful questions. I'm seeing y'all putting some time and effort into coming up with these, so I appreciate that. Let's keep it going. Again, following $5 million tournament, DreAllDay.com/TBT. Become a fan, support the team. Team WOYG, Philly, July 17th, ESPN, $1 million. We're giving $50,000 to the fans. Let's do it. Work on your fucking game. DreAllDay.com. Out this video, make sure you follow all my top content up here. Follow me on all your favorite social networks right over here, and make sure you are subscribed to catch all the new content I put on this channel every single day. Work on your game.